and welcome. I'm Pam Luna, and this is Waiting for the Sign, a podcast where we share different lessons and experiences that have become my sign to take that next step. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Waiting for the Sign, the Spanish version of Esperando la Señal. I'm Pam Luna, your host. And I got a confession to make, and this is the first time that this has ever happened to me in a little over a year that I've been recording the podcast as a whole. I completely blanked on releasing a new episode last week. As I have shared in some of the previous English episodes, and I believe I might have mentioned it on the Spanish one as well, what I'm doing just to kind of get myself used to having English podcast episodes as well is to release one every 2 weeks. And according to schedule, we were due for one last week, and I completely forgot. I was in shock, and it took me up until yesterday to realize that this happened. So yep, there you have it. And when I started thinking back on it and the fact that this completely slipped my mind, I realized, or at least what I feel had a lot to do with, is the fact that the last 2 weeks in February were just a complete emotional and internal spiral. And it's one of those things that when it comes to my online presence and social media, and just in general, we're not really used to showing kind of that vulnerability in that side of when things don't go the way that you want to, or when you're not feeling the way that you want to feel. And even though I had kind of an idea of what I wanted to talk to you guys today, I think it's important to go a little back to those couple weeks and touch base on that, not only to be a bit more honest, which is one of my main goals this year in general, is to show a little bit of when things don't work out as planned, show a little bit about that unfiltered and not so perfect and aesthetic side of just life in general, because I think it's important to normalize just how often that happens. We're just not aware of it because we don't show it. So let's get to it. Something that I had talked about not only on social media, but also in a couple of the episodes from the Spanish version of this podcast was the fact that I wanted to give an intention and a specific purpose to each month this year. The way that I had been doing it for the past couple of years, and to an extent it had worked, and apologies if you hear a dog barking, it's probably one of my neighbors, but we keep it real over here. It was the fact that the past couple of years I had set myself with big goals, and I'm all about goal setting, and I'm all about connecting with your purpose, and I'm all about working hard. But I realized that there was a smarter way to do it. I realized that throughout the process, more than enjoying what was happening, enjoying the victories, enjoying the wins, enjoying the process in general, I was kind of losing myself, because all I kept thinking about, rather than look at everything I've done and look at everything I've achieved, I would focus on look at everything I'm still missing, and look at everything that I haven't achieved yet, and look at everything that I could have at this point, but I don't. And so with that, I decided to sit with myself and think, okay, how can we reprogram this? How can we make it in a way that is feasible for me, where I'm still working towards something, where I'm still attaining results and achieving things, but I'm also enjoying the process. I'm also going along for the ride, and it doesn't feel like a struggle at times. Although, yes, it may happen here and there, but I just wanted to make the process more enjoyable. And all that is to say that when this year started, I began to kind of break down some of those goals. It's not that I am not working towards something. It's just that rather than setting myself with this never-ending list of goals and things that I'm working towards for an entire year, I decided to break it down by month, focus on less things, but actually be able to see myself go from point A to point B. And in doing so, the first month in January, my intention and what I decided to do was take it slow with might seem like it's not much to do, but I've had to literally drill it in my head that there are times where you need to take it slow, enjoy the moment, recharge your batteries, because that is also a part of the process. If we just continue to go, 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 but we never actually take a moment to rest, to reconnect with ourselves, to figure out maybe there are some things that I want to be doing differently. Maybe there are some things that I don't want to be doing anymore. Maybe there are certain areas that I want to explore that I haven't thought of and whatnot. Also, spending time with yourself, spending time with your loved ones. All of that is a part of the process, and it's going to help us achieve what we want to achieve and feel successful in whichever way we determine what success is for ourselves. And that experience really allowed me to align with the whole be in the present moment, enjoy more. And it was a very enjoyable, for lack of a better word, month for me. And then with February, the idea was going to be a month about learning, primarily because I have been doing a lot of different like online courses and workshops. So in my head, that was the kind of learning that I was going to be doing. And it aligned with some of my different projects, my online business, and different things that I wanted to either improve, get some more information, more indication on. But the funny thing is that, especially the last 2 weeks in February, as I mentioned earlier, I feel that I had a crash course on just life lessons, things that I either already knew and just had to revisit some of those lessons to make sure that I got it right this time, or maybe some things that I just hadn't taken the time to sit with myself and really process some of the thoughts that I was having, some of the ways in which I was viewing certain situations in my life and certain relationships and certain dynamics. And it kind of felt a little bit of, it exploded in my face in some way, but it was necessary. And that's where I got some of the best lessons for me. And that's where I want to kind of dig in a little bit, because when I went through those experiences and when I finally gave myself the time to process how I was feeling and trying to figure out why I was so moody for 2 weeks and why so many things bothered me and why I was comparing myself so much and why I was focusing on what I felt I was lacking versus everything that I had been obtaining, it was too much. And I realized that one of the main things is that I wasn't giving myself the priority that I give other people, that I wasn't giving myself the time that I give other people, that I wasn't giving myself the energy that I give other people. And sometimes that happens. If you're someone that likes to be there for others, if you're someone who considers herself a support for others, I think that's great. And I think that being that person for others is a wonderful way to just be human. But at the same time, when we get to that point of giving and giving so much of ourselves that when it comes time for us, when it's our turn, whenever we decide that is, we have little to nothing to give us. That's when I realized that I needed to put my priorities in check. I needed to figure out where I was saying too much yes to others and not enough yes to myself. I had to figure out where maybe I needed to put some distance between those who I have given so much of but wasn't seeing anything in return and not feeling bad about it. And that on its own is something that I definitely want to give its own episode in terms of friendships and friendship breakups and when friendships hit those rocky moments, which it happens. And I feel that they don't really teach us how to put those boundaries and how to be okay and not feel guilty if we decide that we don't want to hang out tonight because we want to be on our own, enjoying our company and just resting. Or if today we don't have the time or the energy to be that free therapist for our friends, which yes, I have a degree on that one. And I've been there. I've been that person. And as much as I enjoy that, there's times where I have to say, you know what? I can't do it today. I can't take up this call or I can't have this conversation right now because I need to take care of myself. And that's fine. So, kind of to go to the point that I want to make today and leave you with something concrete that you can use if you have been feeling this way or ever feel this way, in which you feel that you're giving everything of you and don't have that much left for yourself. I would say that the first sign and the first recommendation that I would give us is listen to your body. Listen to your system, listen to yourself, because deep down you know when you've been feeling drained and tired and lacking energy, and maybe you're not sleeping enough, and maybe you just need a break. And sometimes that goes beyond just all the tiredness that we have from the day to day and our jobs and the usual responsibilities. It comes from stretching too thin. So whenever we feel that that's happening to ourselves, rather than trying to ignore it and be superwoman, which yes, we are, but to an extent, it's okay to remember that we're human. It's okay to remember that our amount of time and energy is limited. And it's okay to hit pause and recognize when that's happening. So first things first, listening to our bodies, to our systems, to ourselves. The second thing that I would recommend today is sitting down and making an inventory of some of those things that have become a pattern that's not being very helpful to ourselves. Maybe realizing where we've been investing a lot of our time and energy and effort, but we're not seeing much of a return. Or maybe we could reduce it to a point where we're still there for others and we're still able to give just as much as we're able to do so for ourselves. There's times where I found myself to be stretching thin and doing a million things where it's not just with people, but even just taking action on things that aren't really a priority at that point, aren't really things that I need to be doing right then and there. And in a way, they're kind of deviating me from what I really should be doing, from what I really want to be pursuing, from what's actually a true priority for me. And what helps me realize that is when I list all of the things that I've been investing myself into, whether it's people, places, things, activities, what have you. What are some that maybe I'm giving too much? What are some that maybe I'm giving too little? Because that can happen too. Sometimes you're putting all of your eggs in one basket and you're giving all of your time and energy to maybe a set of friends, but not enough to others. Maybe you've been doing all these socializing, which is fantastic, but you're lacking time at home, either by yourself or with your partner. Maybe you've been investing all this time into certain aspects of your business, but not others. So being able to have a clear reference of where your time and energy is going and figuring out ways in which you could manage it better. I tend to think of these as small pit stops that we should do from time to time along the way, and kind of like a personal assessment. What's been working? What hasn't? What are some things that maybe I could be doing better, and maybe some that I don't want to be doing at all? And this one in particular, I would say, is the third recommendation. And it has to do a lot with accepting and being okay with the fact that sometimes the path that we thought we wanted to continue pursuing, or the goal or the activity or whatever it is that we got ourselves invested into, just isn't cutting it for us anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. I believe that denial can be such a detrimental obstacle. And it's one of those things where nobody else is going to be able to tell us when we're doing so, or maybe some of the people that knows us very well. But the best person to recognize when you're just trying to force things is yourself. And that's where not only do you need the openness and the acceptance, but also the ability to understand that there's nothing wrong with realizing that you don't want to continue doing certain things. And that certainly has been something that I don't want to say struggle, but definitely have been playing along in my mind, realizing that, okay, there are certain paths that aren't as fulfilling anymore. There are certain things that I thought were going to be sort of playing secondary characters in this new story that I'm living that now I want to fully pursue, or at least do it in a bigger way than I had been doing so far. So allowing yourself to have these deep and honest conversations about where you want to part ways with certain things, where you want to start over in certain areas of your life, and realizing that there's nothing wrong with it. The way that I see it, I'd rather try something, realize it's not for me, and move on than just stay in that spot of what if, and what if I had tried this way, and could this have gone this other way? I don't like that type of uncertainty. I rather have answers, even if they're not the answers that I originally intended to get. So with this episode, I invite us to, again, from time to time, hit those checkpoints, sit with ourselves, really ask ourselves how we're doing, how we're feeling. Is there anything that we would like to be doing in a different way? Is there something that is just not fulfilling? It's not giving. It's just not something that we want to do anymore, and that's fine. What is something that maybe we're giving too much of our time and energy? What is something, or some people, or some places, or areas in our lives that we're not giving enough? In allowing ourselves to not only be honest and open and accepting, but also allowing ourselves to reframe and reformulate that narrative, that game plan, that path that we want to follow in order for it to fit where we are, who we are, where we want to go, who we want to be. I hope that even a little bit of what I share with you today in this episode is of use to you, is at the very least an invitation to stop and think about where you're at and how you're doing. Just asking ourselves those questions from time to time, I feel like it makes an immense difference versus just playing along and just being on autopilot. Allowing ourselves to question things, and especially ourselves. And that is the end of yet another English episode of Waiting for the Sign. Thank you so much for listening, for sharing, for interacting with these episodes. I sincerely hope that you enjoy them and make good use of all the information that we share here. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Until the next one. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Waiting for the Sign. Stay tuned for the next one.